Guys, what's up? Hey, it is Doug, and today I'm doing a video I've wanted to do for a while, but for whatever reason just never have, so I'm making it a point to do it today. I want to talk about the differences in Department 56 and Lemax Spooky Town, but specifically the figurines and some of the accessories as well, but mainly figurines. Just at the top here, though, I will talk about the buildings just very briefly, just some generalities if you're not familiar with, either or company. Pretty much, as far as the buildings go, at least, Department 56 and Lemax Spooky Town, scale-wise, they're fairly close together. I display them together. A lot of my friends display them together. And you can see some pictures and video here of me with, some of the displays where I've mixed some of them. But anyways, so the buildings, they go together, I think, fairly well. If you do want to get a little bit more nitpicky, though, Department 56, their finishes are typically more glossy, and Lemax Spooky Town is generally more of a matte finish. Some other generalities, though, about the buildings. Typically, Department 56 has, the buildings are more static. There's less animation. You're going to get less soundtracks, especially, recently. Some of the older buildings had soundtracks. It's rare that you get that anymore, at least as far as the Halloween stuff goes. And also the lighting is less extravagant, whereas Lemax, you have the crazy lighting, the animation, the soundtracks, all of those things. Now, Department 56 also, I talked about the finish, the glossiness or whatever, but the actual buildings in general are going to have typically just a higher quality paint job, to go along with the finish. And a lot of times you have more detail, more texture kind of in the pieces. One of the best ways I've ever heard to describe the difference between Lemax Spooky Town, which can be kind of crazy in the designs, right? A lot of times buildings can go all different themes and everything. The difference between that and Department 56, which typically, for a lot of its history was designed, I believe, by one main designer who did their Halloween line. That's changed recently, I believe. But most of those buildings kind of, I won't say they're more muted because they do have some outlandish themes. But for the most part, it looks like they kind of go together a little bit better than some of the Lemax buildings do. The best way I've heard to describe that is my friend Ryan, Haunters Nation. He actually said that Lemax Spooky Town is a neighborhood without an HOA, and Department 56 Halloween Snow Village is a neighborhood with an HOA. I thought that was hilarious, and it makes a lot of sense. That's enough about the buildings for now. The main thing I wanted to get across, though, is that for the most part, while there are some differences, you can put the buildings together. They're kind of around the same scale generally, and that's no problem. Figurines, though, it changes a little bit, and to a lesser degree, the accessories. So right over here, I have some Department 56, both classic and new figurines and an accessory here. And then over here I have some Lemax Spooky Town, both newer and classic figurines here. I have these out of the package. Just really quick here, just a note on the packaging. Department 56 stuff, pretty much all of it, you're going to have a box with some foam around it here. When we get up close here, I'll show you what that looks like if you've never seen that. Lemax Spooky Town, you're going to have these blister packs. And typically, what I do is I store mine out of the blister packs a lot of times because it can be a pain to put them back in. So that's why I have some of these loose figurines here. And then their accessories are a little bit different. Sometimes you get them in a box. Sometimes they have like a blister, a bubble over here. And this one has a bubble. So let's get up close and I'm going to talk about some of the differences here. All right, guys, let's get into the boxes here really quick. I just wanted to show you the Department 56 figurine boxes if you've never seen one before. These are some recent ones. And see here, put this over here. They come in, they're pretty well packed in the boxes. So this is from last year. You can see here, boom. They pack them really, really well. And versus the Lemax stuff, which again, you had the blister packs, which are okay, but just kind of a pain to put them back. And then the foam here really protects these. Look at the details on this here. We'll talk about the details in just a moment here, but to get into the Mad Knight here, this is a different kind of thing to where it's not a box, it's a sleeve. You can see here, the sleeves, got to be careful so they don't fall out there, but he's tucked in there pretty good. I love this figurine. The detail here, check this out. All right, guys, that's just some examples here of the packaging. I'm going to clear all this stuff off here, the boxes, and just have the figures out. All right, guys, so I have everything out here. Over here's the Department 56. Over here's the Lemax. And so the first thing I think you can see here for the most part, like that'll jump out, is the scale difference here. So Department 56 figurines are just in general, they're bigger. They're larger scale. And the good part about that, I'll be positive up front here, is the detail. Because if you look here, these are both different kinds of figures, right? Because you have the knight here has a little bit more of a matte finish, but still, if you look to compared to like a Lemax figurine here that I've got, just a lot more glossiness. But look at the paint job though on these, especially the knight here. I mean, this is some gorgeous shading. I've learned how to do, you know, recent months here, some minifig painting as I've gotten to wargaming and learning about shades and everything. And it's really impressive though, what Department 56 is able to do on these pieces here. And I love, like here, the very vibrant color. They just, the coloring, everything is awesome on Department 56 usually, as far as the colors and you know, the finish basically on the pieces. So you can see here, next to these Lemax ones here, I specifically got a couple of these because this Lemax, this is actually a set here. I forget what it's called, but the I'll put it in the description here of the video. But this is the these villagers here who have like the, you know, the torches, pitchforks coming for the monster here, like Frankenstein's monster. He's a big figurine for Lemax, so I wanted to put him here because you can see, compared to like this here, I mean, this is a big figurine again for Lemax, and it's still, this is just a trick-or-treater, a guy outside of a house, right? And then you have this knight. They're just way bigger, and when you put them next to like here, I mean, look at the difference there. It's like a giant. Also, this is one of my favorite Lemax figurine pieces here. This, here we go. He goes up here. This farmer here, which is kind of like a scarecrow. I use him in pumpkin patch themes, but he's pretty big again for a Lemax figurine. And look at him here next to the knight and everything. He is quite a bit smaller even for that. Most Lemax figurines are going to be smaller than that too. So you're looking more of this kind of a scale here. All right, but in talking, you know, typical sizes, this is your Department 56 figurine, that's your Lemax figurine. Scales are always going to be a little bit different in between individual figurines and pieces because the companies play a little loose with that. But on the whole, this is kind of the difference here. Now, that presents a problem if you're going to display the figurines next to each other. I won't even get into the buildings yet, which I'll do in a minute, but obviously that's a big discrepancy, right? And you can kind of get away, you know, a little bit for making that so obvious by having the Department 56 figurines by themselves, or if you just display Department 56 or just Lemax, this isn't really an issue, but this is for, you know, mixing them up. So you can get away with that a little bit. You can also play with scale a little bit if you put these guys up front on a display and put your other figurines and, you know, buildings and everything in the back. So it kind of plays with perspective to where, yes, of course, these guys would look bigger. But the fact of the matter is they're just bigger figurines. So all of that detail and everything, it looks great. But the problem is next to buildings, the Department 56 figurines just do not look in scale with the next to the buildings. And that includes Lemax or Department 56 buildings. And that's a big problem that I have. This used to not bother me as much because I would just kind of do the scale thing. You know, I'd put the Department 56 pieces up front. But as I've, you know, done more displays and kind of as I've gotten on in the hobby, I typically just don't like displaying the Department 56 figurines in my displays as much when they're gonna be around buildings or other figurines, just because they are so big and they just look out of scale. That's the thing. And you know, it's a personal preference, but that's kind of where I'm at. I did want to talk about the Lemax stuff in general here because I spent most of the time talking about Department 56. You can see here though, more matte finishes. The Lemax pieces here, I don't think they're bad though. At least these in particular. You do have some Lemax pieces though, figurines that do have questionable paint jobs. You'll find that much more often than you will Department 56 because for the most part, I don't know what kind of QA Department 56 has, but it's pretty solid. There's another big thing though with the figurines. You're paying for the Department 56 quality. You can get a bunch of Lemax figurines for the price of one of these guys. So there's always a trade-off, right? And let's also really quick talk about these accessories here. And I wanted to show these specifically because these accessories each have figurines in them. Accessories, you know, obviously they don't always have that. I love this little piece here. Caramel apples. The caramel apple stand from Department 56, but this is glossy also. It kind of shows what I'm talking about here. Very glossy. This one also has lights, by the way. Whereas this one here, much more matte in finish. And also, this one's interesting too, because this one actually has a pretty big, looks like I have a piece of hair on that, sorry. I have a husky running around here. But this guy here is a bigger figurine also that goes with it. And it looks similar here to this figurine, except for this is a child. So this would be a very big kid compared to the big gardener guy here. You can see here kind of the scale here. That would be a big kid. So the figurines, typically you're going to have bigger figurine, larger scale, also on the Department 56 pieces as well, keeping in, with their figurines. Lemax, of course, they keep their scale for the most part of their figurines, but their figurines are more in scale with buildings in general. Hopefully that makes sense to you all. So how do I do it? I've displayed all sorts of different displays. As I mentioned earlier, for the most part these days, I kind of don't really display the Department 56 figurines much, unless they're kind of off by themselves to where you really don't notice the scale. But given that I don't really display them that much anymore, and given the cost, I just much prefer Lemax figurines these days. And I can live with the paint jobs that are, a little bit lesser. Some of these are beautiful, and if there is a Department 56 piece that I really want, I typically, just for collector's sake, will get the figurine to go with it. That said, I'm going to be using this guy when I do my big castle display, just because, he looks incredible, very spooky, and really, he looks monstrous, right? Like a big, super tall knight, almost like the Mountain for you Game of Thrones fans in size. Maybe even a little bit bigger there compared to the buildings. But regardless, that's so specialty, I'm going to use it. There are times like that I'll do that. But for the most part, I stick to Lemax Spooky Town figurines these days if I can, just because they're in scale with all of the buildings. All that said, though, it's totally a matter of personal preference. I just these days prefer more keeping things in scale versus having the larger size, but the more detail and the better finish and everything. I just like the scale appropriateness more than I do necessarily the details and the finish and all that. All right, guys, hey, hopefully you learned a little bit, from this here. If you're unfamiliar with one brand or the other, or maybe even both brands, if you're a newbie, you're looking to start collecting here and you're curious about both of them. So, yeah, it's fun to talk about this stuff. I'm glad I finally did the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, my Patreon supporters. And let me know in the comments here, what do you think, about the differences between Department 56 and Lemax Spooky Town as far as the figurines go. Always curious to hear what you all have to say. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.